Hi guys, can you guys hear me? Destiny, how are you?
I'm
No?
fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Lovely to meet you here.
Thank
Uh,
you. So amazing to
yes.
hearing you.
Yeah, just trying to figure out are we in the live session or are we at the I know I entered the backstage. I don't know if I'm in the live session already.
We are live. We're
Okay.
live already.
All right. How was the day? Everything was going well. We'll soon start in the next 2 minutes. Um, Glad to have you here. I don't know if anybody has joined us now because I'm trying to figure that out. Figure that out. Mhm. So you're talking to us today about startups, right? And grants, right? Sounds fantastic. I'm sure a lot of people will willing to be ready to, hear that part because a lot of people have been, a lot of people are really, really, really looking forward to, meeting, knowing really about startups and sorry about grants because I mean grants is a very it's an easy way to generate funding to achieve your short-term to long-term goals in startups. So yeah. I really cannot wait for you to start. I think you should start anything from now. Okay. Okay. Let's just start. Uh, Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, it's good morning. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to um, our first, our second Techbiz of the year, and I'm glad to have you guys here. It's a fantastic another fantastic time we'll be spending your presence with your company, just trying to exchange ideas, trying to see how we can be able to utilize the knowledge and the experience of those who are experts in their field to be able to grow our businesses and achieve the goals that we set for ourselves. Right. Today's is the 78th edition of Techbiz. My name is Edwin Ajogun. I'm the country director for Echo Innovation Center. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have you. All of us that are joining us on Air Meet. I'm glad to. I'm happy to see that we are all. We're all here together for the first time, and I mean, this is a wonderful platform to use, and I can't wait to see just exactly how we all get to get used to it as we go forward. So we're looking at today we're going to be looking at a whole lot of things, mostly around grants and startups. And the thing about this is that when you talk about grants and startups, it's a finicky topic. People don't really understand it. I mean, they say the process is always too long, and I get that. There's no people like to call it free money, but not necessarily free money. There's a lot of KPIs attached to it. But then it's a fantastic tool to have if you are really in some sectors in the economy, and it's a sector that is being really looked at both by both by the government and even by national organizations and development partners. So this is an area whereby you can be able to get funding to achieve your goals, use extra cash for yourself, and also get yourself out there without having to spend your own personal cash. It's fantastic, right? I know it comes with a lot of strings. I mean, you have to deliver, you have to track your expenses, you have to be to provide reports, and it's fine. I mean, if you're really into, I mean, if you're someone that's passionate about their business and has um, integrity and really wants to achieve the goals he has set for himself, then that shouldn't be a problem, right? So yeah, so grants are a fantastic way of getting like funding. I mean, getting funding for startups. I mean, everybody just keeps saying that funding is hard to get, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I think but it's hard is people don't know how to apply for these things. And this is the reason why we are bringing in a very fantastic speaker here today to come and talk to us about how you can access grants. You can access grants for your business, for startups. You can be able to utilize these grants and use to grow your business. And it's going to be fantastic because we have someone who we know personally, and we know that is a very, very is an expert in this particular field. His name is Agbanimu. Destiny Agbanimu. I'm so glad to have him here today. Just before that, please ensure that you are following us on Instagram. You're joining our Tech Business Show on Telegram. You are following us on LinkedIn. You have all this information, and someone is going to drop. Someone is going to post the link to all this in the chat box. So please, when you see this, just go there and follow us, and it's going to be fantastic. You really, really, really want to be there. Like, you really want to be there and see everything we are posting out, especially in Tech Business Nation. You should join the group. We are doing a lot of content there. We are helping people to design their what do you call it, their pitch decks. We're able to do connections when we have be able to give out contracts to some people, and it's a fantastic time. We are all in the same boat. We are all experiencing the same field, same pains in our businesses there, so we can all exchange ideas, right? So you should be there, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you there if you're not there already. Okay, so that being said, let me just run through the profile for our speaker today. His name is, like I said, Destiny Agbanimu, and Destiny is a business development expert with 5 years of experience in system innovation, operations coordination, product management, media marketing, revenue, and lead generation. He has worked in the international development consulting, IT, media, and communication spaces, providing business development approaches and strategies for sustainable growth and financial stability. His core specialties are business analysis, product management and marketing, innovation management, fundraising management using QGIF, proposal, and critically, grants management. Learning and capacity building is one of his skills. He's also good at customer experience and partnership development. He is every day as a business development expert, consists of navigating through a prospective current buying cycle, reviewing requirements, presenting solutions, resolving doubts, mitigating risks, and demonstrating value over costs. All of these involve typical sales activities such as calls, meetings, proposals, exploring functionality, and ultimately securing contracts for the business. He is currently our own grant manager. So we are really, really, really happy to be. Hi, Destiny. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwin, for that awesome introduction. Thank you so much. You flattered me with all the profile reading.
Oh,
Thank you so much
it's
for
not
having me.
flattery. It's not flattery. We know
It's a
how
great
good you
feeling to
are.
be here. It's a great feeling to be here, and I really want to appreciate the EIC team for putting up this, for to share knowledge on how businesses can grow, despite the challenges in the ecosystem. You people are giving out ideas, innovation, helping startups to achieve their purpose. It's a good one, and I want to appreciate your efforts for that, Edwin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's something that we love doing. As a big player in the space, we just love to, ensure that everybody's carried along with the growth process.
Okay.
All right. So what's going to happen now is you're going to have the floor. You're going to speak for like 45, 30 minutes. And afterwards, people ask you questions, and we'll be able to close the event for today.
All right.
You can start wherever you're ready. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining this meeting. So, like you said, my name is Destiny Agbanimu, and I'm experienced in business development and grant management. I have about 5 years of experience. So today I'll be talking about how you can access grants as a startup. How you can access grants as a startup. Accessing grants is quite very difficult. Okay, it doesn't get to the top five on how you can fund your businesses. It's quite a very difficult task to do as a business owner or as a startup owner. So in the next few seconds, okay, in the next few seconds I'll be sharing my slide. Okay, just a few minutes. Rather. All right. Okay. Yes. Oh, sorry. I think I made a mistake somehow. Okay, sorry. Let me share that again. Okay. Please confirm if you can see my slide, please. Can you see my slide? Please confirm.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
All right, great, great, great. So in the next few minutes, I'll be talking much about how you can access grants in your startup. How you can access startup grants. Startup grants are very quite important in your businesses to scale up intervention, to reach out to more customers, to expand your solution, to provide more services and products to people who are buying your stuffs. Okay. So just before I jump into my core presentation, I would just like to briefly talk about the top funding sources. The top funding sources. These top funding sources are basically how startup are built. Okay, where startup gets their funding from. It is one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to implement and execute what you have upstairs in your head. So funding is always one of the challenges you see in businesses, in startup, because trust me, every startup owner want to explore, they want to create more business atmosphere, they want to hire more hands, they want to expand to other countries. So far, the top funding sources are just by personal saving and grants, personal savings and credits, friends and family, venture capitals, angel investors, banks, and crowdfunding. You would agree with me that grants are not listed here, but somehow you can impute grants into the banks. Okay,
Sorry,
the
Destiny,
banks.
are you presenting? Because we cannot really. Your screen is kind of stuck on the first.
Wow,
Slide.
I'm presenting.
Maybe you
Can you see?
should stop sharing and reshare.
Okay, okay, let me do that. Sorry about that. That's a kind of technical error. Okay, let me share again. Can you see it now? Please confirm. Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, but it's on your slide, so you need to present it so we can see it clearly.
yeah, yeah. So this second slide is the top funding sources, basically where startup get funds to build their businesses and their brands. You would agree that on this chart or this table, you would see that there is no grant funding there, which means there are little percentage of startup that could actually secure grant funding for their businesses. So I'll be talking much about how you can position your startup to get this funding. Though it is difficult, it's very taxing writing grant proposals and getting those grant opportunities to
Sorry,
yourself.
sorry, Destiny. Sorry, Destiny. Are you on full screen mode or you're just showing the?
Full screen mode.
Yeah, so this can be clear for everyone that's seeing it.
Okay, let me reduce.
No, like you should be on full screen so that you can see the
Yeah, it
numbers.
is. It is. It's on full screen mode. It is. It's on full screen mode. I'm surprised you're not seeing it. It's on full screen mode. Yeah. What about this way? It's on full screen.
Okay, just continue.
Okay. Just confirm you can see it. I want us to follow the slide while I
Yeah, I
present.
mean it's showing that, but
Oh,
okay. What
okay.
about? Okay, you know what will happen? Let's present from our own end. Can the
Okay.
admin present from the
Okay.
code to test that?
All right. So I'm sure you have the file with you. So okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're seeing it
All
now.
right. Great. Great. Yeah. So you can see it clearly now, right?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So this is just an infographic that explains how startups secure funding, and sometimes it's very difficult to place grant funding opportunities here because most organizations are, they are not much concerned about funding startup with grants, but for these, you have quite a lot of them to fund your startup. Next slide, please. So, what is a startup? People would ask, do I know the meaning of a startup? So, there are just five key characteristics that defines a startup. Five key characteristics that define a startup. Number one, They focus on growth. They focus on growth. They have more than one person. If you want to build a startup, you must be able to have your own team to yourself in order to tag your business as a startup. Number three is that they do not have more than 500 employees, right? They do not have more than 500 employees because the startup is just coming at the initial stage. People want to be able to see how you need to project your growth. So the fourth one is they work with technology, right? Which is very easy to understand. And the fifth is they are very innovative. They come up with novel approaches to solve different kinds of social problems or economical problems. Next slide. So when I get to meet young startup individuals, they always get to ask me four basic questions, right? So they are like, what is a grant? Why do I need a grant? How can I access a grant? And where do I need to get grant funding? So within these few minutes, I'll be talking or answering those questions. What, the why, the how, and where, right? Next slide, please. So, what is a startup grant? Very clear. A startup grant is a sum of money given to a startup in order to help them further their businesses. Just like what Aiden said during the introduction, it is not a free money. People define it to be free money, but it is not a free money. It is meant for your business, it is meant for your startup. I remember several years ago when we were trying to build grants for a particular startup. When the person got the money, the first thing he did was to buy things for himself. So when you get startup funds or startup grants, it is not for your individual consumption. It is for the business, and that is why most people that award grants funding, they are very strict with your proposal. They are very strict with your business model. They are strict with the things that you need to do with the money, right? So go to the next slide, please. So three things to note for startup grant, three things to note basically is one, all startup grants are for existing businesses, right? You have a little percentage of grants that are looking at funding startup at the ideation phase, right? You have a very little percentage of grants that want to fund startup at the ideation phase. People want to know that you've done at least some things on the field. You've reached out to some schools with your idea. You've been able to provide solutions to some particular problems in your community. You've engaged some youth in some development. You've done some things. So startup grants are always interested with existing business. And the second thing to note is that grants are given to interesting businesses. I will change that interesting to innovative businesses. Okay, there are 1001 startups that are out there that do the same thing you do. They do virtually everything you do. Your operations have the same template and everything. So grant funders want to come up with a kind of a novelty, something that will differ you from people, right? They want to fund innovations. They want to be able to see you as a different entity. So, and the third one is grants are not immediate, unlike loan. When I said during my first introduction, I said grants, startup can be funded from different funding sources, but there are different strategies on how you can acquire those money for your business. Just like loan, you can apply for loan and you get the money to build your business or your brand. But for grants, they are not immediately. You apply for grant funding in the first month. People want to do the review. People want to do the evaluation of your proposal before they will not start considering you to get your grant funding. So it's not an immediate money that comes to your business or your startup. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Edwin, confirm if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah, it said next slide.
Next slide, please.
Okay. So the second question I would like to answer is why grant funding? Why startup grant? Because you want to give justifications, you want to give reasons why you are applying for grants, right? There are so many people who would just want to get grants because they need money. They are so desperate to just make their business, acquire funding. But you must have a purpose. You must have a kind of a driven need. It must be need driven. If whoever you are proposing to do not see the need of this startup, there's no how it will work. So how do you structure out your why? How do you structure out your why? Okay, how do you structure out your purpose? Number one is you must be specific with whatever thing you're trying to achieve. That's why I use the SMART goal setting. You must be specific. What do you want to do? Your startup cannot have a background of agriculture and you're looking at how you can jump into the education sector. You want to start solving problem in the education. You already operate in the agri-tech and you want to use that same startup to be doing fintech. It's a conflict. So you must be very specific with your startup. Okay. And the next one is measurable. Whatever you're trying to achieve, be able to measure them, put KPIs to them, attach key performance indicators to those goals, and be able to structure out a metric plan for your startup, right? So if there's anything you're doing, be able to measure your success, be able to measure your progress, right? And the next one is A, achievable. I can't see my slide. I don't know if I'm the only one. I can't see my slide. I can't see my slide.
I'll continue speaking. I'm sure to come back up.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead. And the next one is the A, which is achievable. Whatever you're proposing to a grantor must have a level of achievement. How do you want to achieve, okay, this thing you are proposing for your startup? If you are trying to scale, you must propose that, okay, it is possible for me to scale. This is what I want to achieve. These are the numbers of growth I want to achieve within 5 years. And the second, what we talk about the arrow, is must be realistic. You must be realistic. Your purpose while you are starting up a business must be realistic. Do not give unrealistic measures. All of these also tie up in the grant proposal because when you are proposing something that doesn't look real, it creates some kind of confusion to people who are trying to fund your startup, and they will say, these guys are not serious. Let's just give them some time for them to learn their lesson with several rejections. So you must be realistic with whatever you are planning to do with your startup. And the last one is you must be time bound. Create time for certain projects, create time for certain programs, create time for certain deliverables, right? Create time to be attached with whatever objective you are trying to achieve in your startup. Okay, so that's all for the why. Let's go to the next slide, please. Next slide. So now is we want to talk about how, which is the most very important slide for today is how to access grants. How can you get this funding? This is the most interesting part. How can you get this funding to yourself or to your startup? The first thing you must do, research. If you have a startup, you must love how to do research. I used to see a lot of people that say, no, I don't like to do research. Let me just give this grant writing to somebody who is an expert to do the writing, right? So, but you don't have to do all of those things. You must fall in love with researching because sometimes you want to research on some websites, read some articles to see grant funding that are active for applications. And you must know how to align your startup to those grant funding. For instance, now, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation wouldn't fund any proposal that is coming from the education sector. You would know that this education sector, I need to reach out to the GPE, Global Partnership for Education Grant. You need to reach out to other ones that their goal is to create the SDG 4, which is to achieve quality education. So you must create that alignment with your startup. Those research funding opportunities must be aligned with your startup. That's the first thing. Number two, after the alignment, you need to develop a concept note. So a concept note is just it's just a summary of your business plan. Your concept note must have the introduction, your need statement, the problem you are trying to solve, how you intend to solve this problem, just briefly, like 3 to 4 pages concept note. Sometimes it may look graphical, it may look very engaging. You have that one to yourself. Then the next is to develop your proposal. And this part of developing proposal, you must know that each grant funding organization have specific deliverables. They have their own objectives. For the education sector, for instance, you could see a grantor wants to fund teachers' capacity building, and you could see another one wants to fund edutech in order to create accessibility or make quality education accessible to low-income countries and other parts of Africa or other parts of Nigeria. You need to have a clear terms of reference when you are developing your proposal. You need to hint more, you need to touch down exactly what you are trying to address, right? And you also need to tell about your success story and your impact story on your proposal. What have you done? What achievements have you made in a few years? What have you been able to drive in your startup sector? If your startup is about fintech, what have you been able to do with your innovation? What solutions have you done? So you must able to create that narrative or your proposal. And the other one is your methodology and your approach. It is very, very important how you tend to approach this problem. You must be very strategic on how you approach this particular problem, because this is just a brief on how you need to structure an amazing proposal that will capture your grant reviewer. Okay, so when they are reviewing your grant, these are a few things you must touch. And the next one is your proposed team. Your team. Who are the guys behind the success stories? Who are the guys behind this innovation? Who are the guys behind this achievement? They want to know them. Okay, what are their experience? What have they been able to do? So your team is also very important when writing your proposal, and your work plan. Your work plan sometimes will be attached to your deliverables. Your work plan must have a clear note marked with date and timeline that for activity one, I intend to do this in the first 6 weeks. Activity two, I need to do this in the next 3 weeks. So you structure all of those. And the last but not the least is your budget. Your budget is crucial. Make justifications. Just give, what are they funding? Are they buying any tools? Are you holding any capacity building program? What exactly are you using the money to do? Give out justifications, because I must tell you this for a real fact that 70% of organizations that give grants stop giving grants because of transparency, because of startup are coming up with false justifications to secure grants from them. And after a few years, they are not able to do these things. They are not able to show reports on what they've done. So it's a big problem. So once you are making justification for your budget, make sure you are using those money to do exactly what you wrote for transparency's sake, and also to build another opportunity, right? Also to be able to build another chance of securing another grant. So you don't want to miss that opportunity of having this money, because sometimes it could be very tempting. Your startup have been there for years, you've not been able to secure funds, and somehow, $50,000 just entered, and you are like, wow, this is all money. You get. So you must be able to control those nerves and try to make clear justification for your budget. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. Go back. So the last slide before I finish my presentation is, where do I access startup grant funding opportunities? Just like I said, that you must love research. You must be able to dive into different kinds of research, right? So the first platform I usually go if I need all of this opportunity is Development Aid. Development Aid is a very interesting platform that gets all of these opportunities using the machine learning cycle and put it there on their platform for people to see and people to take advantage of them. Another one is MasterCard Foundation. MasterCard Foundation funds a lot of grant opportunities. They give out sometimes call for grant opportunities, and you apply for them. You show how interested you are in their funding. And also, like we also know, is USAID. USAID is also another great platform. You can secure grant funding opportunities. You also have the UNGM. The UN system bodies fund a lot of grant opportunities. Just like I said, you must be specific. You must know what you are looking for, your why. Your why shouldn't conflict with any kind of grant funding bodies. For Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they have a sector for funding health programs, health innovation, health related issue most of the times, right? So you wouldn't want to bring a fintech inclusive solution to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They won't fund it because it is quite different from their objective. And sometimes when you're applying for this grant, they will tell you from the beginning that look at what we want to fund. Read instructions, read all of these things so that you'll be able to put out your proposal according to what they want to see. These guys, the grant reviewers, get over 1,000 applications at any open call for grants, and it's quite tedious for them to be reading deep into your proposal. Just go straight to the point. Be simple, be clear, right? And be very strategic with your approach. So just before I finish my slide, I would just like to say that grant writing is not an easy task. Grant writing is not an easy task. It takes a lot of research, it takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of data in place. Like for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they don't joke with data. You must be able to use data to represent whatever solution you are trying to provide or we are trying to propose to them. Most of these guys love to deal with data. So if you are writing your proposal, you must capture out how do I need to source out for data? What am I using this data to do? What am I doing with this? Each and every proposal call have different scope, different objective, and each of them also have different approach, different proposal templates you are to use to capture all of these grant funding opportunities for startup. Yeah, the next slide. I think this is my last slide. Yeah, so I've been able to answer a lot of questions like what is a grant, where to get a grant, how to access grants, and the next question was how, why, what, and where. So those are the questions I normally get from people who have startup, and I've been able to make that clarity to say you can access grants, it is possible, but you need to put a lot of commitment and hard work in your proposals. Yeah, thank you so much for this time, and I've been able to make just
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So I have a few questions here. Now, for startups that what's I know that there's some startups that are more which sectors do you think are more likely to receive grants?
health,
Healthcare.
education, and agriculture. Health, education, agriculture, and
So you're
also
saying
people.
you're saying that startups who are playing in those spaces are more likely to receive grants than others.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And the grants come huge. It comes so huge.
Mm.
Yeah, it comes so
Health,
huge.
man,
For
you
the
should
health
tell them in
sector,
you should tell them in Techbiz Nation. So,
okay, so currently we are having some existing endemic in the health sector. We are having emerging diseases coming
oh
to
yeah,
be
the
an
pandemic is
endemic.
driving the interest in healthcare.
Yes, the pandemic
Ah,
is
okay.
driving it. So the pandemic is driving it so fast that health tech and ideas around the health sector, startups around the health sector, secure more funding compared to any other sector. And
So,
education now.
those startups that are building things around simplified healthcare services and the rest, those ones that basically are because it's a global problem, it's saying that
Yes,
those who are building solutions around that problem are more likely to get grants, right?
exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Very clear. Very, very clear. Yeah.
So now, in your own opinion, who do you think is the most active grant provider in Nigeria?
Very, very obvious. Tony Olumelu for
Oh,
Nigeria owned.
that's standard.
Nigeria
But then,
owned. So Nigeria
who
owned
else
Tony
again apart from
Olumelu.
I mean, the international
Okay.
organization? Who do you think is the most?
International, you can mention USAID,
Okay.
UNDP, and the Bill and Melinda Gates. It's just that Bill and Melinda Gates calls maybe once a year, okay? But the USAID, it is always available. So you
Okay.
just go to the portal and look at the ones that are available to your own forte, to your own scope, and apply. So for
For
your
you,
answer,
when you're applying for grants, what's always your biggest challenge in, as in, what's the biggest problem you have to face when you're applying for grants when you're in as a grant
okay,
manager?
applying for grants is having the expert. As a grant writer, as a grant person, there are some kind of technicalities that is required of you to propose. These guys have what they are looking at. Just for instance, the real one that is on ground is using data science to solve a particular problem in the health sector. So if you must build up your grant proposals, it is required of you to bring somebody who is experienced in using data science to solve
Oh,
problems in the health sector. So getting those guys, getting those technicalities, those team together is always difficult. And
so you're
which,
saying now that your role as a grant manager is basically to tell a story,
yeah,
but then
yes,
you still need
exactly,
someone who has the technical knowledge of
exactly,
that
yes,
particular
yes,
process to be able to communicate.
yeah, come together.
After we've sold the process and we've sold the benefits, okay, when it comes down to how you want to do it, then the project owner needs to be involved in that particular process.
Exactly. So, what as a grant writer, what we do basically is to understand the scope, match out the deliverables, understand the KPIs, get guys who can deliver the job, get the team, have a meeting with them, right? So we draw out a work plan, we draw out an approach. Okay. So it's just a team effort, it's a collaborative effort to access these grants. You also need to get financial persons to be able to narrate down our financial justification, our budget justification. Because when reviewers see these things, it's not just one person that reviews this grant. There are committees from
Mm,
different sectors, from technical sector, from the financial sector, from the sustainability sector, for the stakeholders management, from all lots. They look
mm,
at the grant and say, okay, I think this thing is touching more on, it's kind of very gender inclusive. You need to look at people who are related to gender inclusiveness and all that. So understanding the scope, driving those people, those components to make it successful is what makes a grant awesome.
mm. So,
Yeah.
what do you think that they always look out for whenever they see grants? What are the first things they look out for?
When you are seeking grant, first of all, your idea. What are you selling? What are you giving? Your why. Why do you need a grant? Just like I said from the presentation, why? So
Mm-hmm.
you can't just like today I got a call from someone saying, I need to get a grant. I asked them, okay, what kind of grant are you looking at for a period of 6 months? What do you want to achieve? And there are no clear terms, there are no clear terms stated. So people like that wants to get grant, but their concept note is so very unclear. It's not focused. It's not simple. For lay people to read and understand it, it's quite very unclear. So from the concept note, first thing first, if you are seeking for a grant, have a clear concept note that touches every angle of your forte, every angle of your sector. If you're trying to provide a particular solution, be able to have talk to some expert and say, okay, what do I think? What do I need to include? I need to make sure that I'm not missing out on a particular sector. I'm not missing out on this. Get the concept note right before you now start moving into the next stage.
So,
Yeah.
do grants providers usually discriminate between whether they give for profit organizations or non profit organizations?
Yes, very good question. Very good question. I was going to mention a particular grant. Okay, there's a grant from the UN Pact, that's the United Nations bodies. They don't give grants to for profit, right? They don't give grant for profit. Once you read their eligibility criteria, they stated there that we don't fund any kind of organization, just NGO. But for Bill and Melinda Gates, you have academic people, the academians, the researchers, for profit, the NGOs, whatever. But for the UN system, they are very specific. From the USAID grants, there are some grants that will tell you we just want to fund for non-governmental organization. Some will tell you for any person, just bring your idea, anyhow. Because some people will also fund grants that have clear business models. How can you make me make money? So if I'm funding your business idea in the long run, so they're trying to convert it to like an equity kind of thing in funding startups, right? So if they are giving you a fund, they want to have a clear description of your business model. So for profit, they will be happy to fund organization that is willing to make profits. So it's always from the eligibility criteria. You read the instructions and see exactly what they are looking for. If they are funding for
Okay.
NGO, for profit, for researchers, individuals, or not.
Okay, so I'm sure you're particular about US aid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think do they fund the non-profit organizations? Or
Yes,
sorry, do they fund profit organizations?
they do.
Okay.
There are some sectors, there are some grants. You know, USA has different kinds of grants. There are some grants that are basically for NGOs. There are some grants that anybody can apply. There are some for just for profit, right? They have several kinds of grants. It's not that the USAID grants gives grants to just NGOs or for profit. They have sectors, just like the co-impact. The co-impact grants will tell you they have the anchor grants. They have I've forgotten a lot of them. They have like four types of grants under the co-impact.
Mm.
So those co-impact guys will tell you that okay, if you want to apply as a profit organization, go for Anchor. If you want to apply as for NGO, go for something else. They have a name for that. So it's the same thing for USAID,
Oh,
grants.gov.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just wanted to say clearly, though, for those of us that are streaming, I know we usually don't take questions from those who are watching our streams, but that's
Yeah.
one of the benefits of using iMeet. We have a iMeet, sorry, we have a direct line between you streaming, watching the streams, and us during the session. So if you have a question for Destiny, please just if you're watching us on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, just put a question in the chat. I will be able to capture it and send it down here and to be answered for you. All right. So just one more thing or question that's been bugging me. Um, when have you? What do you think is like the most um, for you really? And in Nigeria, we've seen, like I said, there's a big challenge with accountability, the record keeping, and data, and people keeping the record of those things. But for you, like, there are some startups that say okay, we want to do all this, but we don't have the tools to do it, right? Now, what tools do you think that every startup must have when they are going to? I mean, they're going to be successful in communicating their interest for a grant. What tools, what technical tools do you think they must have that will indicate to them that the grant owners that they are actually serious and have the credibility for assessing those grants? Or
Okay.
anything that they must show to improve their
The chances.
credibility in the eyes of the grant issuers.
Okay, for startup, still at the ideation phase, you need to look at your concept notes. Yeah, your concept note is very important. Your your just your concept notes for the startup, still like the ideation. But if you are at the point of pilot, if you piloted your idea and you're trying to scale, you need to show your financial records. You need to show your financial records. You need to show your stories, your success stories. Show them reports. You can let them see reports of what you've done in the past and how you're trying to build on that effort to get more grants. So for startup just coming on, your concept note is the first document you must have to be able to secure grants. Yeah, your
Okay.
concept. Yeah,
All
because
right.
sometimes the most difficult part is clarity. People do not. Some people have been holding a particular document for 5 years, but the day you just look through it, you know that come on, you've been wasting your time for 5 years. This is never going to get you anything. You
Mm.
get so you need to look at those things. Make sure you touch every component of what you are trying to propose because these reviewers have, and I've been opportune to speak to a grant reviewer from UNDP, and most of these things this guy say is let your concept note be at least 2 pages. Just give me this, give me this, give me this. Let me just see it. Then we'll
So
call
it
you.
should be short and sweet.
Yeah, be short and sweet, very quick. That's why sometimes it's always good to use some very graphical representation like putting pictures, putting these, because they don't get to read too much. They just look at this, they already understand what you're trying to say. They go here, trying to understand what you're pointing at. So it should be very clear. Your solution must be very clear. How you intend to approach must be very, 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 very clear. And also stakeholders management too. But you are not putting that on your concept note. That would be on your proposal.
Okay. So now, when you're reading a concept notes, what are the components in your own mind of a winning concept note?
Okay, first one, introduction of your business, introduction of your startup. The second one is your need statement. Okay, what are you trying to solve? The third point is your solution, an overview of your solution, right? The third one could be how your solution can be sustainable, your sustainability plan. And the next can be points to impact or points to scale or paths to scale up. So you're trying to show that you are here currently, but you're looking at going to this place. So that gives them a sense of growth. Like I said, five characteristics of every startup that you must be willing to grow. So once you put that point to scale, it gives them a sense of growth that this guy is moving, is growing. So they will be willing to fund that. That's another component. The next component is your budget narrative. Okay, just a brief of what you need money for. Any money that comes to your table, what are the first five things you need to put your money on? Is it to build more capacities? Is it to get more tools? Is it to, just give that narrative, very short, like 6 lines or eight narrative of your budget. So that's just a brief of the concept.
So, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. Just one more question, I think, from my own end, and I don't know. I've not really. I'm waiting to see if anyone has a question to ask you. But now, is there a possibility, or is there a model that exists that one can transition, say, especially for those grant providers who fund ideas or concepts? For example, if I have an MVP to show to solve a particular problem, now is there a path to say, okay, after I have finished my say commitment, my scope of work with this fund with this funding partner, can I transition from being a non-profit to a for-profit startup afterwards? Is there anything illegal about that, or is this something that's expected to happen?
There are a lot of legality to that. There are a lot of legal things to do. You can't transition that way. I don't think it
So
is.
it's saying that now, let's assume now that I've created an application that can solve hair loss, because that will be a solution that is a solution that I'm unfortunately a lot of us will buy because we don't have it anymore. But but let's assume I create an app that can do that, right? And now I don't have money to fund it, right? I just do that it works. And I approach say a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or let's say a UN foundation that said, "Oh wow, if we can deploy this application in Europe, it's going to douse a lot of tension with the men folk and make their mind calm down because they're getting too riled up." Just speaking hypothetically.
Yeah.
Now they now say, "Okay, we don't fund for profits. We only fund non-profit." And I go and say, "Okay, yeah, I'm a non-profit. I don't have any intention of. I mean, at this particular point in time, I'm a non-profit, and I really don't have the capacity to pay for profit at the moment. But I need your funding to be able to get my product out there. Pay me. I go and deploy. Now, after my engagement is concluded, and I've been able to deploy, say the grant was deployed for say 1 million men in Europe, and I've deployed 1 million to 1 million men, and our project is now officially closed. What are you saying now that after that particular point in time that I cannot use the brand equity that I've been able to get, the what do you call it? The brand equity that I'm able to get, the effort that I've been able to make so far, then using that mileage your funding has given me, even after I have finished your project, I cannot now take that effort and now go and say, okay, you know what? For the next 1 million people I'm going to reach out to, I'm going to sell it to them. Are you saying, yeah, is that what you're saying?
For me, once you are able to secure a particular fund as a non-profit, if I get you clearly, and you want to transit to for profit, you're just trying to change the business model overnight to make more money. I believe for consistency's sake and being able not to create conflict with your scope or with your vision, it's always good to draw out another solution that will solve that same problem, then it will be for profit. So while the existing one that is an NGO that been able to secure funding should stay as an NGO and continue to seek out how you can make more money with that NGO, then you create another for profit. So this business model is going to be different from this business model, and you use both hands to push rather than just transiting. Because it means that if another organization now come that okay, they want to fund that same idea, but you must be a non-governmental organization and you've already transited to profit. That means you will not transit again to non-governmental organization because
So you're saying that the smart thing to do, so you're saying that the smart thing to do is to um, either you create a new entity
yes,
to sell your products
exactly.
and retain the NGO so you can use that NGO to get more grants to push your products. So that's two different ways.
Clearly,
Okay.
clearly.
Okay.
That's the best approach to use.
So someone has asked a question. Said, what about this is John Olorun Ope. Say, what about social entrepreneurship? From my thinking, they work as an NGO and for profit. Can my business access grant if it's enterprise? So sorry, it's asking if his business can access a grant if it's a social enterprise.
If it's a what? An enterprise?
Social enterprise.
Yes, 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 exactly. For Leap Africa is a very great channel as a social innovator to get most of all these opportunities as a social entrepreneur. So there are a lot of grants that comes in from those angles if you're solving problems related to the social spaces. Projects that are related or tied to the SDG goals, and you're trying to achieve the SDG goals. There are a lot of them. You can. It's just for you to do your research, do your donor mapping or your grant chart mapping, so that once there are funding opportunities, you don't go around searching. You just know where to click and get those ideas. So Leap Africa is one of them. Ideation Hub, and there are quite a lot of them. Social entrepreneur. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you much for your knowledge you've been able to share. Really appreciate you. Really, really, really appreciate you. It's unfortunately I have to let you go now, but we've had fun. We've been able to exchange ideas, and I really, really liked it. They're very, very interactive with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
So
for this.
yeah, thank you so much. So just to remind everyone, the video of this session is going to be available on our website. Please, they're going to post a link to the website and to the links to all our social media handles and our Telegram group. Please join if you're not already on the group. We share ideas like this. We share knowledge like this every day, every time in that group. So it's been great for you to join in. At this point in time, I would like to just, if there's no other question, I'm not seeing another question. I'm just going to use this opportunity to thank everyone for coming. I appreciate you for coming. I appreciate your time. We're going to have a very fantastic time in Techbiz this year. I can see that we're already starting off on the good on the strong foot, and I can't wait to see what else we get to, bring forth as we go further into the year. So once again, thank you very much, Destiny, for coming.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you all the best. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye bye. Take care of yourself.